Should you try and sort of mesh in the life of your professional life and your social life? We'd like to hear your thoughts and experiences on it. 85058 is the text number. Stephen Briars is a leading clinical psychologist. Did you get your job through networking?
Yeah, actually, I'm embarrassed to say I did.
You volunteered 80%.
Damn it.
How did you get it?
No, my original job was through sort of walking in off the street, talking to someone, them introducing me to someone else, and it worked that way.
Andy Lopata has written 3 books on networking, including one out this week, recommended How to Sell Through Networking and Referrals. How many jobs have you got through networking?
I think pretty much every one I've ever gone for when I look back at it. And I work with people who've been made redundant on how to use their network to get a job. And even the ones that are advertised, I think people still know who they want before they advertise them. So that profile you build through your network and the recommendation and referral still counts, even if it's advertised.
And Colin McKeand runs 2 businesses. 80% of your employees get their jobs through chatting to you?
Yes, we don't have many employees, but I have interacted with lots of businesses over the last 10 years, and I think that's a pretty fair percentage.
Listen, let's start with Stephen. And I was trailing this into Victoria Derbyshire's show, and the moment I mentioned networking, she went, "Oh, I hate it. I hate it. It makes me feel sick." Why do people feel so uncomfortable about networking?
Well, I mean, I share some of that discomfort, I have to admit. I'm interested to sort of hear what Andy has to say about it, because, I mean, as long ago as Aristotle, people were making distinctions between relationships which are there effectively because you want something out of the other person, and authentic relationships which are about actually encountering the other person, caring about them as a person. And I don't know whether you've ever been in that sort of awful scenario of being at a party or in some kind of a meeting, and somebody who networks poorly comes up to you, they talk to you, they establish that you're not remotely relevant to them, and they cut you absolutely dead. And it seems to me that, you know, there's a sort of pragmatism to the whole thing, which actually is just sometimes a bit unpleasant. But maybe Andy knows differently.
Andy?
Well, I mean, I think both experiences are right. You know, pure networking for me, proper networking, is all about the relationships. It's about getting people who know, like and trust you, showing your interest in them, and actually being there to support them first. And if you build a network like that, you've got people who will want to help you when you need help, and in fact would actually be put off if you didn't ask them for help. The type of events you talk about, that's where people succumb to what I call the networking myth. And that is, I need business, therefore I'll go to an event that's full of prospects for my business. But if everyone at that event is going there under the same myth, you haven't got any prospects there because everyone's trying to sell. And you end up with people making what I call eye-to-badge contact rather than eye-to-eye contact. They're only interested in what your job title is. They're not interested in who you are. And that's where you've got to start. You need to sell through the people you meet in your networks, not to them, and it makes a huge difference.
How do you go about making that huge difference?
You focus on the relationship. What most people ask each other when they introduce themselves to each other at a networking event is, "What do you do?" Which is the networking equivalent of, "Do you come here often?" They don't care, they're not interested, it's an icebreaker, and if the answer isn't something they're interested in, they've got nowhere to go with the conversation. Just focus in on, "Do you come here often? You know, have you been to these events before? Have you heard the speaker? Do you know anyone here?" And find what you've got in common, and you can build it through from there.
Yeah, let me bring in Colin, because I believe you have a mantra that relates to what Andy was saying there. Can you share it with us?
Yes, Andy and I actually know each other, would you believe? Networking, of course, that's right, yeah. I mean, I totally back up, what Andy says there. It's all about the relationships, you know. People think, and I've been doing this for 10 years now, been to lots of different events, all different types of formats, from breakfast to lunch to evening, and, it's all about the relationships. There's also other benefits as well. You can create a lasting impression, you can improve your skills and confidence, meet new friends. I've met lots of friends through networking, and we can have a bit of fun as well. So it's not just about the selling aspect. I think that's, as Andy says, that's where the myth is. It's all about selling, and it just isn't. There's lots of other benefits as well. Well,
it says here in my information about you, your motto is, if you want to get business, talk non-business first.
That's right, yes. I think I picked that up many, many years ago. As Andy quite rightly says, the first part of the conversation is, what do you do? And, we need icebreakers. You need to talk, in a business situation, I don't focus on the business at all. I'll have little icebreakers about, things, personal things, just have you travelled far, things like that. And, just get the person talking, because it's all about...
This all sounds like bad dates. Stephen's wincing here.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Stephen.
This still all sounds a little bit Machiavellian to me. It seems to me what you're talking about is kind of whether you can get away with it. I mean, when you're having these conversations and you're doing these icebreakers, in the depth of your heart, is this really about sort of a genuine interest in the other person, or is this just about not putting them off so that ultimately you can get the business contact you want?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, actually. You have to be genuine. And, and I do appreciate, you go to some events and, and people just aren't genuine. But in my experience over the last 10 years, I would say that, the majority of people that go to events are actually genuine.
What are these events?
Can I just say that? Because I think that when we hear the word networking, we automatically think of events, and we've fallen into that trap of talking about that. But in fact...
What are events?
You'll have any range of events where you'll have an industry conference, you might have a networking breakfast for small businesses who are looking to refer each other, chambers of commerce where you get local businesses together. But they're a tiny proportion of networking. They're a tool that help you network, help you meet more people and see people more frequently. You've got online networks like LinkedIn and eAcademy and Facebook and Twitter now as well, all adding to the mix. But actually networking is about the network of people around you, the network of people you build. You talked about the line crossing between professional and personal life. Well, the people that most want to support you and help you, and probably the people that will be happiest to recommend you for jobs, for example, are the people that are in your family and amongst your closest friends. And we're too quick to put a big, thick line between the two.
But isn't that sort of, in a sense, precisely the point? I mean, you're talking about family and friends and people who you know. I mean, isn't there something a bit suspect? Network started off as a noun and it's become a verb. And in a sense, isn't it a bit like happiness? If you sort of pursue happiness, you're unlikely to find it. It's a byproduct of doing other things. If you're forging meaningful relationships with people, absolutely, you will establish a network. But if you set out to network, don't you end up with something a bit artificial?
You're in danger of doing so, but what you have to do, in my approach, is to know what you want to achieve in your career, in your business, whatever it may be, and then understand where that support can come from. Not to go out and network for that support. But if you don't have a strong enough network of people behind you, that's where you need to go to events to meet more people. But your focus should only be on meeting people you have a rapport with, that you like, and getting to know them. And I have a belief that I'd much rather someone ask me what I do 2 years down the line when they care than when they just meet me. So like Colin, I focus on the relationship.
So let's pause there.
Right.
We're going to find out. I think Colin often asks people, how was your journey here? Let's get the travel from Lindsay and find out. We've been talking networking with Stephen Briars, a leading clinical psychologist, Andy Lopata, who's written 3 books on networking, including the very interestingly titled And Death Came Third, and Colin McKeand, who runs 2 businesses. And Colin, you're saying you're a big fan of networking. How valuable has it been to your business?
I can honestly say it's been very, very valuable. I've been networking now for about 10 years. I've been in business for over 10 years, but, I have been doing it seriously. I think there's an important point to make as well. I'm sure Andy will agree with me here, is you need to have a strategy. It's a lot of people are told, particularly business people, just go out and network. It's not just about going out and networking. You have to have a strategy. You need to know why you're doing it in the first place. What are you looking to achieve? What does success look to you? So I think that's very, very important. And I think we've mentioned the word network, and I prefer to talk, think of it as speaking to people. It's just speaking to people, chatting, exchanging information, and following up develop relationships.
So how does someone start from scratch?
Well, I think that strategy that Colin talks about is essential. You have to know what you want to achieve. Before the traffic, Colin talked about getting more than just sales. And I say there are 3 main reasons we network. We network to become better known, become better equipped, or become better connected, not to sell more. So understand where you want to raise your profile, who you want to be speaking about you and who you want them to be saying it to. Understand what your biggest challenges are and how other people can help you, and understand who you need to meet and who can help you get there. And if you do that, then you've got that strategy that Colin talked about, and you can work out who's in your existing network that can help, or you can work out the right groups to join or networking sites to go to.
Stephen, have you been convinced by this?
I think there is a good way to do it and a bad way to do it, and Andy certainly seems to be recommending something that is very positive. I think the bottom line is that we're really talking about relationships, and all relationships ultimately have to be based on a foundation of respect. And if networking is done respectfully, then I can see that's a good thing. It's when it isn't that it grates.
Well, speaking of relationships based on respect, let's move on to our second topic today on 5.